escalate when it appears everything is lost?
Leslie, it's been so difficult because, yes, we have seen that violence can escalate, and we're reminded that domestic violence is a pattern, right? And so while we see that there can be one incident that leads to something horrific, what we know is that there's been a cycle and a pattern of violence, which is what we've heard, right? That there have been many incidences over a length of time and a period of time. And so we are reminded that domestic violence is very serious, that it can end in fatality, that we have to believe survivors, and that yes, there can be an incident that leads to something as fatal and heartbreaking.
It's tragic in nature, certainly a fall from grace for a relatively high profile family that seemingly had a lot of things going in their favor. So tragic for the children to lose both parents. Extra tragic for them to actually be in the home when it occurred. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, and our victim services division, like they always do, is leaning into the family, the surviving relatives, the children in particular, and we'll do everything we can for them.
A court order gives him 30 days to move out. He doesn't. A judge writes that the tension in that house has been building for a long time. He stays anyway. A hearing gets scheduled to check if he's followed the order at all, and days before it, he's served the paperwork. That night, police get a call to a home outside Washington, D.C.
440 Alpha, 441 Alpha, Frank Alpha, start for a stabbing area. Caller stating that his dad might have stabbed his mom, saying that she's laying on the ground, bleeding, can see holes in her shirt. Heard a fight about a minute ago, unknown where his father is now. Watch for a directory en route. Fire department's going to be en route as well.
A woman shot in the basement, a man upstairs, gone by his own hand, 2 teenagers inside the whole time. One of them makes the call. This is how a divorce that was supposed to end quietly ended instead in a police report. His name was Justin Fairfax. Her name was Cerina. And for most of the 20 years they were together, they looked like a couple that had it figured out. They met at Duke before either of them had a title. He went on to law school, then a career as a federal prosecutor, then a run for lieutenant governor of Virginia that he actually won, making him only the second Black official ever elected statewide in that state's history. He carried the document that freed his own great-great-grandfather from slavery into the Capitol the day he was sworn in. People weren't just watching him, people were talking about him as a future governor. Cerina built her own thing entirely. A dental practice she ran for almost 2 decades, patients who trusted her, a name in her community that had nothing to do with his. 2 kids, a house. On paper, it read like success. Then, in 2019, everything he'd built started coming apart. 2 women accused him of sexual assault years after the fact. He denied it, took polygraph tests, asked to be investigated himself. He was never charged, never sued. None of that saved him. The accusations followed him everywhere, and when he ran for governor 2 years later, he came in almost dead last. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the man who couldn't clear his name in public didn't handle it quietly in private either. By the time Cerina filed for divorce, the man she was describing in court paperwork barely resembled the one Virginia had once talked about running the state. She told the court he'd withdrawn into a home office that had turned into a pile of empty bottles and dirty laundry. She said the mortgage kept slipping into default while she carried the household alone. Court filings put the debt north of $750,000. In 2022, he bought a handgun, with money that had been set aside for his kids' horseback riding lessons. Then he left the house during what the court later described as a psychological crisis, and it took his own family hours to track him down at a public park and get him calm enough to come home. That was the first time a gun showed up in this story. It would not be the last. Because of how the divorce and the finances were tangled up, Virginia law let them keep living under the same roof while the case dragged on. Separated, but not apart. Still sharing a house, still sharing it with 2 teenagers who had no idea what was building around them. In January of 2026, Justin called the police on Cerina. He told them she'd assaulted him. There was a problem with that story. Cerina had put security cameras up around the house months earlier as the divorce got uglier. Police reviewed the footage. It didn't show an assault. It didn't show anything close to one. No charges were filed against her, none against him either, for the false report. He just walked away from it, like it hadn't happened. He really thought that would work. 2 months later, a judge ended the guessing game. Cerina was given primary custody. Justin's time with his own kids got tied to alcohol testing before he could even see them. And he was ordered out of the house completely, given until the end of April to be gone. In the ruling, the judge didn't mince words. The tension in that home, the judge wrote, had been building for a long, long time. Not a bad week, not a rough patch, a pattern. He still didn't leave right away. Then the paperwork showed up. A hearing had been scheduled to check whether he'd actually followed the court's order, whether he'd moved out like he was told to. He was served days before it. His deadline was closing in from every direction at once. The house, the hearing, the custody terms, all of it landing in the same stretch of days. A friend who'd spoken with him around that time.
Is there any indication that law enforcement should be contacted on what was happening with him and his family life?
No, I mean, Justin was depressed pretty much every day. He was down.
Said he sounded like a man with nothing left underneath him, depressed, isolated, talking like there was no way out that didn't end badly. He was, right, just not in the way anyone around him meant it. Just after midnight, police were called to that same house on the outskirts of Fairfax, Virginia. Inside, they found Cerina in the basement, shot multiple times. Justin was upstairs, dead from a gunshot wound of his own. Their son was the one who found her. Their son was the one who called 911. In the panic of that call, he told the dispatcher he thought his mother had been stabbed, because in the dark, with blood already soaking through her shirt, that's what it looked like. He couldn't find his father anywhere in the house. His father's car was still parked outside, exactly where it always was. 2 days before that night, friends said the family had been talking about college trips for their kids. There was never going to be a trial. The only person who could have answered for what happened in that basement didn't survive the night either. The medical examiner made it official not long after. Cerina's death ruled a homicide. Justin's ruled a suicide. What was left behind wasn't a courtroom battle. It was a paper trail. A gun bought with a child's riding lesson fund. A false accusation disproven by his own wife's cameras. A judge's written warning about a man's isolation and hopelessness, sitting in public record for weeks before anyone died. Looking back at it now, none of it reads like foreshadowing. It reads like a warning nobody was in a position to stop in time. The tributes that followed weren't for him. They were for her, her old dental school, patients she'd treated for free when they couldn't pay, people in her community who'd known her for years and said, almost every one of them, the same thing, that she'd built her own name, her own life, long before any of this happened, and that she deserved to be remembered as that person, not as a headline attached to his. Their 2 kids lost both parents in the same night, one parent to violence and one to the choice he made right after it. Domestic violence advocates say the same thing about cases like this, again and again, no matter how different the people involved look on the surface. The most dangerous moment in a relationship isn't the beginning of the conflict. It's the moment someone finally moves to leave, not because the danger is new. It's usually been there the whole time, but because control that's slipping away is sometimes the exact thing a person decides they'd rather destroy than lose. Justin Fairfax lost his career, his reputation, and by every account, his sense of who he was without either one. None of that explains what he did. None of it excuses a single part of it. But it sat there, in plain view, for months. A gun, a false report, a judge's warning in writing that something in that house had gone seriously wrong. And in the end, none of it was enough to stop what came next. If you enjoy true crime content, Make sure to subscribe to Love to Death channel for more in-depth cases and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Fair use notice. This video is for educational and commentary purposes only. Any third-party footage or images used are intended to fall under fair use as described in Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act.
All right, folks, good morning. I'm here to confirm the identity of our shooter in this murder-suicide that happened several hours ago as former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. Former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax shot and killed his wife inside of their home and then shot and killed himself. I think you have the rest of the details that Captain Cosgriff gave earlier this morning, so I'm just going to pause right here and answer any of your questions to the best of my ability right now. I can just tell you, and then I'll go to Drew first, that this has been an ongoing domestic dispute surrounding what seems to be a complicated or messy divorce. So, Drew.
And Chief, that was going to be my question. Can you elaborate on what the investigation has revealed about the status of their marriage? Of course, the kids are what everybody's thinking about, I think, too, in this as well.
So far, what we know is probably what you all know, and I don't think it's a secret that there's been a divorce proceedings that have been ongoing. From what I understand in this early stage, former Lieutenant Governor Fairfax was recently served some paperwork associated with an upcoming court proceeding that apparently led to this incident last night. Both of their children, teenagers, the boys older than the girl, were in the house when it happened. So that's horrible news for the family. Certainly a traumatic event for those children to live through. But we know that it all kind of culminated last night when Justin Fairfax shot several times, and killed his wife, ran to a different part of the home, and then killed himself with the same firearm.
I know you just got on scene, but from your briefing, what do you know about the scene inside? What is?
So it seems like, and I know I'm competing with some school buses here. It seems like the murder took place in the basement. It's described to me as a unfinished basement in the home. At some point after Justin shot and killed his wife, he runs upstairs in the home and into the primary bedroom, apparently, and shoots and kills himself.
Have you had any previous domestic calls to this location?
So we checked on that. The question is, have we had any previous domestic or calls for service to this location? In January of this year, Mr. Fairfax calls the police and alleges that his wife assaulted him. We responded to that scene. There are several cameras set up inside the house. Apparently, Mrs. Fairfax, at some point during these divorce proceedings, set up a lot of cameras inside the home. We reviewed those cameras, and we corroborated that the alleged assault never occurred. So there was no arrest made. There was a report written, but the allegation that Mr. Fairfax made in January that Mrs. Fairfax assaulted him was proven to be untrue.
Does the nature of who's involved here, like how does that play into it?
Well, certainly this is a high-profile family. At one point in time, I think it's fair to say that Justin Fairfax, before he was lieutenant governor, while he served as lieutenant governor, and even afterwards, was a rising star politically, not just in Northern Virginia, but in Virginia. So it's high profile in nature. It's tragic in nature. Certainly a fall from grace for a relatively high profile family that seemingly had a lot of things going in their favor. So tragic for the children to lose both parents. Extra tragic for them to actually be in the home when it occurred. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, and our victim services division, like they always do, is leaning into the family, the surviving relatives, the children in particular, and we'll do everything we can for them.
What do we know about the gun?
Then I'll get.
Wife obviously being shot first and afterwards, the basement upstairs. Did you get all of that from the cameras inside the house today, or how were you able to gather?
So our detectives have gathered that. Certainly, there's enough cameras inside the home that that we're able to corroborate some of that. But the one of the children was the 911 caller just after midnight. So he described some things to us as well that we've since corroborated. And I think I heard one question about what do we know about the gun? I don't know anything about the gun yet. The same gun that Mr. Fairfax used to kill his wife seems to be the same gun that he used to kill himself. I don't know. Well, we're going to be here for a while. Obviously, we have a search warrant we need to execute to recover evidence, and certainly included in that evidence is the primary firearm that was used and any other firearms. I don't know that they do or don't exist.
I think piggybacking off that question, the cameras were still. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. The cameras were still there and rolling and operational, and that's.
I believe they were. I believe they were.
So he had set up the cameras, and well, we don't know who set up the cameras.
She
set up the cameras in the house.
Yes.
Just to clarify, but he alleged that she assaulted him.
So what we know, I'm going back to January now. What we know is that Mrs. Fairfax, at some point in time, they lived together while they were separated in separate bedrooms. At some point in time, we know Mrs. Fairfax installed several cameras inside the home. And we know that because when Mr. Fairfax called us to their home back in January and alleged that his wife assaulted him in the home, we were able to go to those cameras and determine that never occurred. So that's the only time that the Fairfax County Police Department has ever been at the Fairfax home.
Are family members now with the children?
Yes. So there's grandparents involved, other family members involved. Our victim services division is involved, but so their well-being is a primary concern.
What's the situation with their divorce proceedings, if you notice, that they were continuing to live together in this home, just in separate areas of the home, or did someone return to the home and live together?
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. I know that they were separated living together. I know that there are divorce proceedings that are underway and court appearances that are scheduled and pending in the very near future. I know he was served some paperwork recently. Apparently, the paperwork indicated when he was next to appear in court. That may have been a spark. And detectives will figure that out. That led to this tragedy here. Again, a mother shot and killed, taken from her children, and then he takes his own life.
And no other red flags in this.
So I think family, friends will probably look at this and look at chaos and trauma that people go through and probably any separation or divorce proceedings and likely determine that there were red flags along the way in retrospect. But certainly half of America probably goes through divorce proceedings at some point in time and very, very rarely, thankfully, does it ever end up like this. So very, very sad for this community and the school buses here and a lot of people who know the Fairfax family, everybody's shocked. We're shocked.
It might be too early to know this or not. Do you know if he legally owned a firearm?
I don't know. We'll determine that.
Led to early morning proceeding here. Was there a fight inside that we know of?
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to surmise before I get myself in trouble with detectives is that we know that recently Mr. Fairfax was served some type of paperwork indicating when he was scheduled to next appear in court for the ongoing divorce proceedings. So I guess that is something that we're looking at as something that may have led to whatever happened last night that led to the murder of a mother and a wife. And a suicide. Under investigation. Obviously, we have two teenage children who are in the house, but our main concern is for their well-being right now. They are interacting with us, and certainly the son was the one who called 911 during a very chaotic situation, and I can only imagine.
Do you know if he was still holding some kind of public position or what his employment was at this time?
I know Mr. Fairfax is or was an attorney. I know he returned to practice law after he served as lieutenant governor for Virginia. I otherwise don't know exactly what he was doing with his employment or his law practice.
And this was after around midnight?
Just after midnight, just a few minutes after midnight.
Did the 911 call come after Mr. Fairfax shot himself, or was there a window in there?
If there was a window, Drew, it was a very short window. So I think it all kind of happened at once. Obviously, the wife is shot and killed before Mr. Fairfax takes his own life. I think it was all at once. There wasn't a pause. There was never a moment where someone was holed up in a room or cops were here and it was it all happened pretty spontaneously.
What was the resolution of his false claim against his wife? Did that just kind of end? Was he cited for making a false report? Or?
No, he wasn't. There's a high bar to charge someone with making a false report. So, but our police officers, patrol officers investigated. They were able to corroborate that it didn't occur back in January. So no files were charges, but a police report was written.
Are there any questions of mental health issues, or will you be testing, after for the body for forensics, like drugs or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know about mental health or behavioral crisis. I do know, and I'm sorry to compete with the noise, that the family was going through seemingly a very tough time with the separation, with the divorce, etc. I can only imagine the stress that the parents felt, the kids felt, and the other family members as well. Yes, Cerina Fairfax is our victim. Mrs. Fairfax was a dentist. Mr. Fairfax, obviously, the former lieutenant governor and a lawyer, and 2 teenage children in high school.
So, going back to the timeline, by the time police got there, both of them were deceased?
Yes, both pronounced on the scene. Okay.
To the best of your knowledge, just the one incident where police were involved, where he said no other calls.
To the best of my knowledge, it was January of this year, 2026. But we'll obviously dig into that and confirm it. Within minutes of the 911 call. We can get the exact time frame for you. Both teens were home. The son called 911. A what? One boy and a girl. Yeah. Yes. Everything shortly after midnight. And folks, that's all I got. It's kind of one of my practices never to say no more questions. So I'm not saying no more questions, but that's all I have right now. When we get more information, we'll be sure to share it with you. But right now, the focus is on the crime scene investigation and the kids. Thank you all.
Thank you.